Hi,
Hi, Nathan.
Nathan. We're the random group.
I'm Melissa, and I'm going to be discussing the WIT rating entitled "My Mum's Job is Important, but so is mine," and "Confronting Child Labour" by Johnson.
I'm Pavesh, and I'm going to be talking about Uncovering the Lessons of Classroom Furniture by Tom McKenna. Curriculum is Everything That Happens by Rita Taranio. And The Best Discipline is Good Curriculum by Kelly Dawson.
Hi, I'm Anissa, and I'm going to be doing the Durning Just a Cup of Coffee, as well as Peterson No TV Week. Enjoy!
Okay. Well, I thought that the readings about My Mum's Job is Important and child labour kind of flowed in really nicely to each other because, all work has a sense of purpose, and it's what makes the world go round. I mean, if there was no one working, we'd have no goods, we'd have no services.
Yeah.
So it's something that we kind of all have in common and we all have to do. Though some people choose not to do it. But
Yeah, we all contribute something to the community.
For the environment, for everyone to go together and be productive and moving forward.
But I guess the privilege that we have in Western society is that before we go out and find a job that is our career, we get an education. And children in other countries such as India and China might get deprived of that right because the more pressing issue is that they need to go out and find work to help contribute to their family. A quote I really liked in this reading by WIT is, "If each job is important, why are some jobs paid more than others?" I guess it kind of touches on the perceived social value of jobs, like that if you work in an office block and you wear a suit, you're going to earn more than the person who's cleaning the bathrooms in that office block. But, their jobs are both important. I mean, the cleaners have to be there so that the office is hygienic and so that it can function, but, the people in the office need to be there too to produce what the office produces. Also, I liked that it puts work into perspective for children, which kind of leads on to the reading by Johnson. So when children think that chores are child labour, they don't really understand what they're saying. So a good video I found to kind of put this issue into perspective is a video called Child Labour in India. I watched it in my undergrad, and it's child labour from a child's perspective. So this boy's really overworked. He works long hours for low wages, and he makes bracelets just using a gas jet that's open coming out of the wall in his family's home. So he's making something for tourists to consume. He can't play. He's pretty much given up his childhood. He has a large family, and his mother is a sole parent because his father passed away. He's had injuries from the open gas flame because it's just open and he has no gloves, and the dangerous fumes are making him sick. And he even acknowledges himself that he would earn more if he went to school and was able to get a proper job, but he can't go to school because there's no break from needing to provide for his family. Another video I found that kind of puts it into perspective for, I guess, young adults is Who Pays the Price, which is about iPhones and other technology.
How relevant when the iPhone 6 is just coming.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, everyone should watch this before they rush down to the Apple store.
Yeah.
That just shows that, if we had been born in another country in the third world, then, we mightn't be here at Monash studying. We'll probably have to go off and work in a factory, because what our parents make isn't enough to provide for the whole family. So these people are working 11 hours, I think they work 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. That's a long day. They're dangerous work conditions. They're using benzene, which is not legal in first world countries. So it's interesting to see products that we kind of consume every day and take for granted actually come at a big cost.
And it also makes you think and appreciate how lucky you are and, the lifestyle you have. Because when I was in Thailand, I met a girl who works at a shoe store, and she works 6 days a week, pretty much.
Yeah.
When the shop opens till midnight, and, probably for not much money. And, here I am on a holiday, and it's just it's amazing. So you feel very appreciative of having these opportunities. And, and not only that, so many children can't afford to travel. And so many children can't afford to get a good education, and then that's why they, do those type of jobs, because they can't get the education to move forward and do other things.
Yeah, they just have to kind of just survive and exist. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now on to Pravesh. So.
One of the first readings I'll discuss is Uncovering the Lessons of the Classroom Furniture by Tom McKenna. So the central ideas from this reading, so it begins with a teacher who one day decides to rearrange his classroom into rows instead of a circle, which they normally, the students normally sit that way. Students offer their thoughts and discuss the new arrangement, and the teacher then decides to split the students up into groups. Each group were given a different design of chairs to set up accordingly later on. He then asked them to think about the classroom setup and engage in the task. His aim of this experience was to get them to think about something that they had never considered on a conscious level. He discusses the implications of how students feel as they think about their learning and in relation to how the classroom is set up. The teacher himself reflects on what students have said and the change that goes on when things are placed differently than normal. He says the simple transformation of furniture will not in itself change pedagogy, but it can provide an easy way to think about the places we hope to transform ourselves as teachers and students. So I thought this was a really great quote, which led me to think about, more about change and particularly ways that classrooms are set up. I know from prior and current placement experience, I've not really seen much change with regards to the rooms set up or where students sit. But the teacher implementing the simple experience, but one that allowed the students to think about in a much more broader and complex way. And, he linked it to other concepts, so that was really interesting to read and think about. Have you guys seen much change within the classrooms that you've been in?
My students were allowed to kind of arrange their classroom however they wanted. So they actually did. They put their chairs into rows, and they thought, they had no prompting from the teacher. They just did it, and she said, "Look, I'm just going to see how they go with this," and they hated it.
Wow, yeah.
Because they were used to sitting in
their set seats and whatnot.
Yeah, and facing someone else, having someone else to talk to, and it just completely changed the way they used the room. It wasn't easy to get around. It wasn't easy for my mentor teacher and myself. It only lasted a week before we all just said, this doesn't work.
Working.
Yeah, it just wasn't. It changed the whole dynamic.
Dynamics of everything. Yeah, we had Alan were just in separate tables, with their mates and stuff. And then, but for philosophy, they would all sit in a circle. But sometimes during lessons, if she would get them to sit on the floor, she'd move them around here and there. We had a few students who would get a bit pedantic about sitting in their own chair, in their own spot kind of thing. So we just kept it, I guess, a bit more traditional.
Yeah, they get a bit territorial sometimes.
Yeah, because they've got tubs as well right under their desk.
Yeah.
So moving them is a bit of an issue.
It was actually interesting. One of the students in the reading mentioned that she found it more engaging to sit in a circle the way the chairs are normally set up than in rows, because she felt like being in rows, she could kind of, lack in focus on what's going on, whereas by sitting in circles, she was more, it was more interactive and she was more engaged and willing to learn because that's what worked best for her.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting.
And everyone's kind of got equal view of the teacher. The teacher's got equal view of the children. I really like circles too. My current mentor uses them a lot. And he said to me, there's no reason you can't teach a lesson in a circle.
Yeah.
It's good to try them in your introductions.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the next reading, which is Curriculum is Everything That Happens by Rita. So this reading discusses pre-service teachers and talks about questions and answers relating to teaching and as a beginning teacher. It discusses stereotypes of preconceived notions. For example, one of them mentioned was African families all having poor backgrounds. So she talks about how that's something that she just kind of stereotyped, having African students and how they must just come from a low socioeconomic background. She talked about bridging the gaps between students and families and how, to go about doing that. Making sure that you think about what you're doing in your practice and, is this best for your children, which I thought was really quite profound and something that we should think about always. Yeah. She gave some examples, so make sure you people network and stay in touch with people you met at uni, or find people who feel the same way you do about things. Finding people in the community, researching websites, all to help your teaching and learning. So this was a great read. It really offered realistic advice for new teachers and ideas to think about before and during your practice. It talked about, how curriculum is everything that happens and extends beyond just your literacy and learning practices, and relates to, social skills, culture, and, really extends beyond just what happens in the classroom.
Yeah.
So the last reading is The Best Discipline is Good Curriculum by Kelly Dawson. So this reading began by a teacher discussing behaviour and the behaviour that went on in her class during her first year of teaching. She spoke about how instead of changing her students' behaviour, she then stopped and began reflecting on her own practice as a teacher. Some of the questions she asked herself was, what was I teaching? What methods was I using? And then she implemented an activity where she got her students to write and perform a play. She found this experience engaged her students quite well, and it began helping her deal with less behaviour issues. She then talks about how to make your curriculum more engaging and more creative, and that bad behaviour will happen in your classroom and students will misbehave or not listen, but there are ways to make positive change and make your classroom more manageable. I think that was really good.
Nice.
So that kind of lastly links to my resource that I found from the Department of Early Childhood Education and Development.
Yeah.
So it's this link was talking about classroom management. So it's an excellent resource for all graduate teachers. This particular link that I found relates to behaviour management, was discussed in the reading by Kelly Dawson, and it provides ways to set up and organise your classroom that promotes positive behaviour and how to manage behaviour and ways of dealing with students that are difficult or require extra behaviour assistance. That was a really good resource.
Yeah.
So, on to Anissa.
Yeah, doing the Durning Just a Cup of Coffee. Durning aims to outline the environmental impact of commodity production. In the short article, he slows consumerism down and brings everything back to the basics of, simply having a cup of coffee. As he goes through the steps of brewing beans, using grocery bags, grinder, paper cups, cream and sugar, everything needed to make a cuppa, he lists off at least 4 different cities and 3 different countries needed to produce just 1 cup of coffee. And all the while, as previously mentioned, he draws attention to the necessity of these factors to make coffee, yet though he doesn't explicitly say that they're negative, the negative impact production has on the environment. I quite enjoyed reading his article and the attention to detail, particularly when describing how beans were growing in Colombia, and they were growing on previously cleared native forests in an area that contained, the world's endangered ecosystems. And the fact that another point he raised was that rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, cow's manure often didn't have enough time to properly absorb the chemicals and thus washed into the nearby streams when it rained. Exactly.
That just destroys. That's like dog poo. It's just got too much in it for the ecosystems to cope with.
Exactly, and it creates such it unbalances everything and just the natural environment, and just by putting machines that we need to make coffee.
It's crazy. Like, you don't know where your coffee's coming from, and if you're buying it when it's Rainforest Alliance certified, what does that actually mean?
Exactly. What does it mean?
Rubbish. The buzzword.
It's just a stamp on a thing. Yeah. It's like Milo cereal. They've got the health tick on it.
It's not fooling anyone.
The reading was more of, I guess, of an awareness to the manner by which, just coffee is produced. I like that he didn't criticise or analyse any of the processes beyond their simple, teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of sugar came from the cane fields south of Lake Okeechobee in Florida, and then followed by the impact on the environment. So these plantations have deprived the Everglades of water, endangering waterfowl and reptile populations. So he didn't say how terrible these are, but it just brought an awareness.
Yeah.
You see that? And the end segment was an introspective outlook on farming in Mexico from Emeterio Pantaleon's perspective, as he drew attention to the earth sustaining us, setting our minds free, and it's what really matters in life, just not buying and selling land, consumerism, and just profits and so forth.
Yeah.
And I like how he allowed the reader to make up their own mind and be really exposed to the reality of commodity production.
Yeah. I think it's important if you bring something like that into the classroom. You just show it to kids. This is the facts of what happens with coffee. What do you think about it? And
exactly.
Allow them to form and find their own opinion
and that's just with coffee. For diverse learners, you can everyone's got their favorite meal, favorite drinks. Everyone needs to eat. So pick one of your favorites and do some research about it. Have a look at exactly where this is coming from, how many cities it will take to make it, the production of it, and then you'll think of that next time you eat it.
That would be so
It's-
interesting. Like,
yeah.
kids study food packaging from home. Or
Exactly, yeah. And you start to know, once you start to, like, look at labeling and packaging exactly and the stamps and everything, I don't know, it brings a lot more awareness. And it just also made me think, like, you know, with the environment and everything, you know, what are we doing to protect our environment? Like, Colombia, for example, like, they were losing their native forests. But what are we doing in Victoria? So then I didn't realise, but I found out Victoria's Environmental Protection Agency, and it just had like all these 5-year plans, different programs to create, you know, a healthy environment, supporting, you know, livable, prosperous Victoria. It was really good that it strived for clean air, healthy waterways, safe land, you know, and minimal disturbances, especially from noise and odour. Especially like, you know, your waste distribution and like, dumpings and everything like that.
And that's going to become a bigger problem as more people seem to be moving to Victoria every year.
Yeah.
It's too popular, man.
Exactly. The next, yes, that was really enjoyable. That was really brought a lot of awareness to that. Bob Peterson's No TV Week. I thoroughly enjoyed reading Peterson's short article as it brought into perspective the realities of TV addiction and the sheer amount of time children and even adults are exposed to a box, basically. It offered mathematical lesson advice on bringing awareness to usage by, you know, tallying up, making graphs, counting, you know, how many commercials you're seeing and everything. And the most capturing segment for me was when Peterson outlined the harsh realities that, quote, the average 5-year-old will have spent 5,000 hours in front of the TV before entering kindergarten, more time than he or she will spend in conversation with his or her parents for the rest of their lives, and longer than it takes to get a college degree.
That's insane.
I can't, I was, like, that was I was shocked, so shocked about that.
It just can't be good for you either, like,
before you're 5 years, like, 5,000 hours of TV.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But that's kind of the way the generations are going now, you know, coming from a kindergarten background. You know, so many kids have access to the touch iPods, iPads, you know, their parents' old smartphones.
Yeah.
That's the way it's now going.
Exactly, and which made me, from my placement experience, made me think, like, okay, yes, in grade 5 and 6 we had, you were using tablets and having the programs like Audacity, like these Lego building programs on that. The kids were so excited. Oh, you know, cool, we get to use study ladder and everything to get on it. There was like a reward for them to use it.
Yeah.
And like, are we forced to bring it into the classroom because it's its abundance and everything? Just in society in general, do we have to bring it in here and everything? But to keep up at the same time with technology, I don't know. Like, I was speaking to one of the other girls in the class, the lady, sorry, and she's from Cook Island, when she came back from placement in Cook Island, and she was saying how, you know, they were capable, but they were not strong ICT wise, but it also wasn't necessary. So like, they didn't need any of that. Like, they were switched on. They were clever kids and everything. They needed. So, you know, I don't know. I just thought, are we creating you know, our own culture on the basis of technology, or like, are we relying on it too much? I don't know. And then it related back to the technology article a few weeks ago. So
I think it depends on your views as a teacher and how you want to run your classroom.
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, I would have it, but I wouldn't, you know, allow the children to have access to it every day, really. But I think it's important that they know kind of how to use it, because that's the way we are moving, is, you know, everything's technology related these days. But I think it needs to be limited, because there's just too much emphasis on it in social media and things like that. So I think it's the way you go about doing it. And
and I guess in terms of diverse learners, like, all the students that I had, even the preps that were taking photos using it, they all love it. I don't know.
It's something that captures everyone's
attention. It's like watching a video. Like, they all love it. Like, movie time, this time. Like, it's something to do with the screen. It's like, I don't know what it is. It worries me a bit, to be honest.
Me too, yeah.
Just such reliance on it, and the fact that it just captures everyone's attention, and we just get glued to it. Like, I was talking to one of the other girls in class today, and we were saying how, you're like eating dinner out with one other person, and they go to the bathroom. The next thing you'll do is go to your phone straight away. Like, it's such a technology. I don't know.
And like, you have to be entertained every second of every day.
Yeah. I know for me, I've, you know, gone away and not had access to my phone, and like, I know I can do that. And in saying that, I guess I was distracted, so I was busy, so I didn't need that. But also, I've deactivated Facebook here, and I went 2 weeks without it, and it was only really because my friend wanted to do something, and she was like, "Oh, you're not on it," and I was like, "Okay, I'll activate it again." But I knew I could have gone longer without it. I mean, there's obviously different waking up and not, you know, going towards accessing it. But I know it's something that I can do, and it's, you know, it's good to know that you're not as reliant as others on it.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll stop this for Nathan's sake, but we'll continue this. We'll just pause it for stop it for now. But we'll continue this conversation. Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks for a great semester.
Yeah, thanks for the semester as well. Yeah.
Bye.